Who do I have the pleasure of speaking with today?
Good morning. My name is Chuck Altvater, and I am the Professional Development Unit Chief and Community Risk Reduction Coordinator at the Colorado Division of Fire Prevention and Control.
Chuck, would you mind just briefly telling us a little bit about your history?
Sure. I've been in the fire service for about 15 years. Prior to being in the fire service, I served in the U.S. Army for 21 years, and I've served in quite a few roles from firefighter and EMT to fire inspector, and now I'm the Community Risk Reduction Coordinator here at DFPC.
My first question for you is, first and foremost, is it legal to burn your paper trash or trash in general at home?
No, in Colorado, it's illegal to burn trash. You're also not allowed to burn construction debris or plastics or chemicals.
Okay, do you happen to know what the penalties for burning that sort of stuff would be in Colorado?
Yeah, that's actually regulated by the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment. And the penalty for burning illegally is about $10,000, I believe.
The main question that we'll get sometimes with people who have sensitive documents is, are they able to burn them in their fireplace or their backyard? Why is that not a safe option?
Well, it's not safe because everything nowadays, as you probably know, has plastic in it, including paper. So a lot of the polymers and varnishes that are used to make that paper look good or last a long time, when you burn them, will go up through the chimney flue and actually become part of that creosote layer inside the flue. So if you ever do have a chimney fire, it'll burn much hotter than a regular chimney fire.
In doing some research about burning things in your fireplace, it said that there could be a buildup, like you said, of materials. And I even heard that sometimes that can cause like chimney fires and roof fires. Could you elaborate on how that happens?
Sure. Actually, when I retired from the Army, I worked as a chimney sweep for a couple of years, and saw a lot of chimneys where, and it's normal to build up creosote as you burn wood and natural products in your fireplace or wood stove. But when you start adding those polymers and varnishes to that mix, what happens is it burns even hotter, and the odds of cracking that flue pipe increase. And if the flue pipe cracks, gases, flame, and smoke can escape from the flue and get into the attic. And that's usually when you develop a roof fire or an attic fire because of the chimney fire.
I also read something about embers being able to travel, further than people think. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, and this has to do more with outdoor burning, or if you don't have a chimney cap on your chimney, the embers of paper will be carried aloft through convection, and they can be carried a quarter to about a mile away just on a normal, fairly calm day. And when they come down, if they still have any heat, they can cause ignition if they land in dry brush or in trash or something like that.
Okay. And I know, especially like in places like California and Colorado, I believe that could probably pose an additional risk for like wildfires, forest fires, things like that.
It can, and some of our biggest fires in the state have actually been caused by people burning trash or paper. Everyone may probably recalls the Hayman fire back in 2002. That was caused by a person burning a letter. And the Spring Creek fire last year down in Huerfano County was actually caused by someone burning trash in a campfire ring. It got away from them. Some of the embers ignited dry brush nearby, and that led to a pretty large wildfire.
Just some of like the hazards, like physical, financial, what can be some of the hazards caused by a house fire, caused by, burning these sorts of things?
Some of the hazards from burning paper or trash are, there's plastics in everything nowadays. And when plastics burn, they emit a lot of toxic chemicals that maybe in the past weren't there or we didn't think about. But when certain plastics burn, they create hydrogen cyanide, and that can be carried into the smoke. And if you breathe that smoke, it does lead to cancer. As a matter of fact, that's a major issue for firefighters. And part of the reason we now change and wash our bunker gear between every fire is to get rid of those carcinogens that are created when plastic burns. And if you're burning modern papers, you're burning plastic, you're burning varnishes, and those do create a health hazard, in addition to the physical hazard of the fire itself and the dangers that go with that.
I know that you said you have some history as a firefighter. Have you ever personally responded to a fire that was caused by somebody burning these items?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, one of my first fires as a firefighter, I was still in the Army at the time, was caused by the homeowner burning trash in a galvanized steel trash can not too far from his barn. And some of the embers landed in the dry grass next to the barn and ignited the structure. And by the time we got there, the barn was fully involved, and he had stored some propane tanks inside the barn. So when we got there, they were exploding and coming through the roof and landing around us as we were trying to fight this fully involved barn fire. He ended up losing his tractor and a couple of old automobiles that were parked inside the barn as a result from burning trash outside.
So that kind of leads into my next question. Some people believe that these barrels in their backyard that they have fashioned to be incinerators are as good as, say, an industrial incinerator. And I'm guessing you may have something to say about that as well.
Yeah, and I've seen some of these incinerators that are advertised online, and they're essentially fancy burn barrels. They're a steel structure with a lot of holes in them, but those don't burn the contents as well as industrial incinerators, which incorporate a reburning device. So actually introduce air into the gases and smoke from the first burn and burn it a second time. Industrial incinerators also capture any of those gases and waste, so they don't become an environmental problem.
In terms of somebody who has a great deal of paper or paper materials that they're looking to dispose of, what would be your professional assessment on the best way to properly get rid of that stuff as opposed to burning it?
My professional opinion is that they need to take them and have them securely shredded. You can take them to a lot of office supply stores and have them shredded there. You can hire a company to come to your location and pick up the materials, and they're kept secure until they're shredded. Or in my neighborhood, the HOA does a shredding day twice a year where they hire a contractor to come in, and everybody in the neighborhood can take their documents there for free and have them securely shredded. The advantage of that is that the paper does get recycled, even if it's these modern papers with plastics and varnishes, because they go through a mulching process where those chemicals get removed and don't become an environmental hazard.
Okay, so just to clarify, people should not be burning their paper at home. That is the consensus by the professionals.
Absolutely not. People should not be burning papers at home.
Okay, I believe that's all the questions I have for you. Is there anything that I missed or anything that you would like to add?
Well, I do want to add that if you're burning papers or trash or any of the other items that you're not allowed to burn, like construction debris or cut lumber, and that fire gets away from you and causes a fire, even if it was an accident, that's arson under Colorado statute. So if your fire gets away from you and burns a building, that's first-degree arson. And that actually carries a penalty of up to 12 years in prison or a $750,000 fine, or both. If the fire gets away from you and causes any kind of a vegetation fire, whether it's just a small spot fire or a large wildfire that involves, weeks of firefighting, that's second-degree arson. And that's up to 6 years in prison with a $500,000 fine. And then if it hurts or kills anybody or causes anybody to be hurt or killed, that's fourth-degree arson. And that charge would be added to any other charges like manslaughter, homicide, or reckless endangerment that the person might be charged with. And that's another 6 years and $500,000 fine per charge. So, for example, during the Hayman fire, 6 firefighters from Oregon were killed in a wreck driving to the fire from Oregon to help put out the fire, and that became 6 counts of manslaughter.
Wow. In
addition to 6 counts of fourth-degree arson.
The penalties involved and the potential harm to others or other people's property is definitely something to consider.
Yeah, and the key thing to remember there is, even though you didn't mean to set that big fire, if you lit one piece of paper and it got away from you, that is the act of arson.
Well, Chuck, I really want to thank you for your time, and this is definitely going to help us to inform our consumers that burning their paper is certainly not the way to go.
Right. And if you have any other questions or you want to follow up, let me know and I'll be happy to do so.